Greetings and welcome back to Room 303 in our chats with Emily, as we are calling our readings through the poetry of Emily Dickinson. We're in the Thomas H. Johnson edition, and we turn now to poem 731, I Want, It Pleaded All Its Life. It's interesting that the I want is in quotation marks, and therefore the assumption is something that has been said, and the pronoun it, as opposed to he or she or I, is significant as well in this poem. We're at another deathbed poem. We have commented on the fact that Emily once said in a conversation at 21, she wrote to Jane Humphrey the following: "The other day I tried to think how I should look with my eyes shut and a little white gown on and a snowdrop on my breast, and I fancied I heard the neighbors stealing in so softly to look down on my face, so fast asleep, so still." At 21, Emily was already thinking about what it means to die and to be with others when they die. And we're going to have another one of these deathbed scenes. We will have seen a number of these already. Our assumption is that you've been following our stuff at learnstrong.net. Down that left-hand side, Chats with Emily's our playlist. I'm hoping you worked through our set of introductory comments as well as the preceding 730 poems. We just finished with 730, Defrauded I a Butterfly. This is as well, I think, another poem about desire. So the poem can be read both literally, at the moment of death, someone, she'll call that someone an it, asked for what, maybe a drink or something like that. We've seen that in a number of poems. She's very interested in the last words at death, and in this poem, the last words will be the word please. It will also be in quotation marks. So I want is in quotation marks, and the word please is in quotation marks, the second from the last line. Let's look at it. I want, it pleaded, all its life. I want was chief, it said, when skill entreated it the last, and when so newly dead. I could not deem it late, so to hear that single steadfast sigh the lips had placed as with a please toward eternity. Now, standing behind so many of these kinds of poems, for any reader of the King James Version of the Bible, as Emily was, she adored the volume, is of course that famous story of Jesus Christ on the cross when he will ask for something to drink. I thirst. As final words as well, of course, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. My God, why have you forsaken me? So there's this question about what is significant in the final moment. Here, she says, I want. And then, interestingly, this dead person is not a he or she, or it's an it. It pleaded. And then notice the use of all these dashes. All its life. This is a very sputtering line, right, given the dashes. I want, notice, was chief, it said. Again, this can be back to possibly like in poem 726, a sip of water at the end. Or maybe it's a person lived their whole life desiring things. I want, I want, I want. And in the end, the only thing they want is escape, to exit. We think of Jean-Paul Sartre's no exit. I want, which chief it said when skill entreated it. Notice skill capitalized, dash, the last, dash. And when so newly dead, I could not deem it late to hear that single, notice all these S sounds, steadfast sigh. In other words, when it came to the very end, the lips, notice not his or her or even my lips, had placed as with quote-unquote please toward eternity. Now, is eternity here, notice capitalized, is eternity here representing deity or just the desire after all of the other desires in one's life? The final desire, maybe because of the pain of dying, is I want the liberation of death. Immediately we start thinking about her study of Plato's Phaedo and Socrates drinking his hemlock shake at the very end. I think the point here at 2a is that sometimes in life that the only thing left after especially a lot of pain and suffering is death, immortality, maybe even eternity, here she calls it. At 2b, I'm interested in the language of disassociation. Notice it isn't she, it isn't he, it's an it. The person is already gone and she's speculating. The other death poems come to mind, of course, 465. You can marry this poem to 465. I heard a flybus when I died. we've given already lecture on it. I think it's a companion read. Go back to our study of it and read and compare these two poems. Finally, at 3b, well, we have made the comment that in the end, Emily often seems to be suggesting that all of us say the same thing at our death. The words are, oh my God, the only question is the inflection of the voice. And I think this is one of those poems that kind of proves her this idea, straight up. In other words, when one comes to the end of one's life, we think of the Scrooge story, don't we, in the Christmas Carol, and what he thinks is the end of his life when he sees his gravestone. Most humans say, "Oh my God," but the inflection of their voice is, "What have I done with my life? I can't believe that it's now come to this and an end." There are a few people who are able to say, "Oh my God," with an inflection in their voice that tells us, like Socrates at the end of Plato's Phaedo, they are ready to go. And I think Emily is probably there. And obviously, to own a poem like this begs the question, what do you imagine will be the last word you'll speak in your life? Will it be the word please? I hope Emily's challenging you. Thank you.